to accompany him. Whoever got to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would feel himself overwhelmed with ecstatic love and would begin to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Whoever met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became a Vaishnava, and whoever met that Vaishnava also became a Vaishnava. In this way, all the towns and villages became Vaishnavas, one after another. Just as the Lord inundated South India on his tour, he also inundated the western part of the country with love of Godhead. Purport. According to some opinions, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited Kurukshetra while going from Prayag to Vrindavan. There is a temple of Bhadrakali in Kurukshetra, and near that temple there is a temple containing the deity of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu finally arrived at Prayag, and for 10 successive days bathed in the confluence of the river Jamuna and the Ganges during the festival of Makara Sankranti, known as the Magh Mela. Purport. Actually, the word Triveni indicates the confluence of 3 rivers, namely the Ganges, the Jamuna, and the Saraswati. Presently, the Saraswati river is not visible, but the river Ganges and the river Jamuna emerge at Allahabad. So the Saraswati River, it goes underground, so therefore it's lost for the moment. We'll make them up again later on somewhere else. At the moment it's underground, so there's only 2 rivers there instead of 3. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited Vrindavan. It's like here we have Ganges and Jamuna here in Mayapur. The Ganges is flowing past, so that's the Ganga that we know, where we take our bath. That's Ganga Devi. But Jamuna is also flowing along with Ganga Devi. Jamuna is flowing on the western bank of the river Ganges here. Prabhupada Ghat is on the eastern bank, and on the opposite bank, the Jamuna is flowing there, along with Mother Ganges. When Mother Ganges agreed to come here, or before she agreed, she asked Jamunaji that you can come and keep me company, going into the material world. So Jamuna said, okay, I'll come. So they're flowing together here, Ganges and Jamuna, flowing together. And when they reach the Bay of Bengal, then Ganga will go down to the different planetary systems. You've seen the if you see a map of the Bay of West Bengal and you see how the river Ganges comes into the confluence, then it spreads out into what they call the 100 mouths of the Ganga. She splits into many streams. And then she goes down to the different planetary systems, Patala, Atala, Sutala, Talatala, all these different planets. Ganga goes down and delivers them. It's like Maharaj here perform the sacrifices. Huh? Huh? Bali Maharaj. No. Huh? Sagara Maharaj. Sagara Maharaj. The story is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And his 60,000 sons went to search for the horse, and they were all burned to ashes when they saw Kapila Muni, and they thought he had stolen the horse. They became very angry and they wanted to kill him. Not Sakya Maharaj. Who was the sadhu? Kapila Muni. Kapila Muni. So they became so angry on Kapila Muni, but they didn't know he was such a great saint. So they all burned to ashes due to the own offensive heat in their body. It burned them to ashes. And there's just ashes were everywhere. So the idea was that if he could bring the Ganga down to the lower planetary system, then he could relieve all of his ancestors, his 16,000 sons, from going to the hellish planets, because they went down to Tatala, I believe Tatala Loka. So these branches of the Ganga, they go down to the different places and lower planets, and they purify the whole universe as they flow down. So, but Jamuna doesn't. She said, she doesn't want to come down to the hellish planets. So when they reach the confluence here, the Bay of West Bengal, Jamuna Devi turns around and goes back to at least the heavenly planets. She goes back, and Ganga Devi goes herself. So yeah, so that is why when we do that ceremony at the Gangas, for putting the ashes in the Ganga, so if that person, he has to go and see a little bit of hellish planet, he may have to, just as a result of his bad sinful activities. And he may, so they sometimes go to these lower planets to finish that off, and they come back and take birth again. So when we do that ceremony on the bank of the Ganga, we're offering grains and the shraddha and things like that. And then we offer it to the Ganga Devi. Then Ganga Devi goes down to that, she carries that offering down to the planet where the deceased person went. And then flows down there and then liberates all the people in that, or liberate the person who the offering was made for. So if he went down to, say, Tatala, like the sons of Maharaj Sagara, then that branch of the Ganga, that will go down to that particular planet where the person who left his body has gone. Yeah? Yeah, so wherever that soul has gone in the lower planetary systems, then when the Ganges comes down to the Bay of West Bengal, these different, what they call it, rivulets, they all flow down. That offering that you make to your fathers, that will go down this particular channel of the Ganga, where your relatives have been gone. So therefore, the idea is that you do Pitra Puja and things like that, and it relieves your relatives from going down to, or from the hellish condition. It goes down to that planet where they're staying, and the Ganga comes and liberates. So when we do that ceremony, that's the function. Your relatives went to a lower planet, as most people have to see a little bit of suffering. So that relieves them from that awkward body. They get kind of, picture locusts, they're kind of big body, they got very subtle bodies. Anyway, they get relieved. This is the kindness of Ganga Devi. She flows throughout the universe and she's delivering wherever she goes. So many people come and they don't bathe properly, and some people don't use as a place for cleaning themselves. But still, Ganga Devi, she's so nice, loving as a mother. She's accepting all of that and cleansing the whole universe as she flows down. So this is the greatness of Mother Ganga. So Mahaprabhu, he is taking his bath how many times? 10 times?
10 consecutive days.
Huh?
10 consecutive days.
10?
10 days.
Oh, 10 days. Mahaprabhu, 10 days in a row. Mahaprabhu took his bath there. So Mahaprabhu is beyond all rituals and things like that, but we see how he's playing the part of a perfect Brahmana. As a leader of the Brahmana, Jagannath Mishra was a very respected leader, so they always still follow their local customs and traditions just to set the example. So here Mahaprabhu is set an example. And elsewhere he said when he first arrived in Gaya, he did Pinda to not only one temple, so the main temple, there is Garadha Vishnu, not Garadha Pandit. Garadha Vishnu, he's the main deity. There's a big footprint of Garadha. I hadn't seen it, I don't know. Anyway, there's a big footprint of Garadha Vishnu there. It's very famous, ancient times. And everybody goes there and offers their pinda, offering to the forefathers. And so they liberate. But here Mahaprabhu, he's done one pinda there at Garadha's footprint. But still he went on to do many, many more temples. He went and did the same thing in many temples. Just to show he's a follower of religious principles. And the result of bathing in the Ganga, 10 times an offering for your ancestors. So Krishna, in so many ways, he creates the material world, but he also creates the way to get out of it, the way to become purified. And Ganga Devi is an example of this. Ganga is she's a prime example. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I'm manifested as Ganga, I am Ganga. 3 forms, Ganga, he said there are 3 forms or 4 forms where I reside, and one of them is Ganga, so it's directly an expansion of Krishna, Ganga Devi. So anyway, Mahaprabhu used to do these rituals. Seems like Kamakandya rituals, worshipping the forefathers. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita about Pitri Loka? Yeah, Pitri. Those who are worshippers of the Pitras, they go to the planet of the Pitras. So that's Kamakanda section. Performing these ritualistic activities, which Krishna says they're all temporary manifestations. So worship of the demigods, worship of the Pitris, worship of the forefathers, worship of they're all Kamakandya activity. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu still he followed because he identified himself to set an example as belonging to the Brahminical community, one of the leaders of the Brahminical community. So he followed all the rituals nicely that a Brahmana should follow. Gangamai ki jai. Text 223. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visit to Vrindavan and his activities are all unlimited. Even Lord Shesha, who has thousands of foots, cannot reach the end of his activities. What ordinary living being can describe the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu? I have only indicated the general direction in the form of a summary. The pastimes and methods of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are uncommon. Unfortunate is he who cannot believe even after hearing all these things. I forgot to chant the prayer there. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Gaur Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrindam. To invoke auspiciousness. Hare Krishna. The pastimes and methods of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are uncommon. Unfortunate is he who cannot believe, even after hearing all these things. From beginning to the end of the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu they are uncommon. Just hear them with faith and accept them as truth and correct. They're uncommon, very uncommon. So the Vaishnavas say, of course they're uncommon, otherwise why is he God? If God comes and performs common activities, what is the use of being God? So you must expect uncommon activities when you're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whoever argues about this is a great fool. He intentionally and personally brings a thunderbolt down upon his head. You accept these with faith as true and correct, otherwise you may get some thunderbolts. He who argues about this is a great fool. He intentionally and personally brings the thunderbolt down upon his head. I believe. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are an ocean of nectar. Even a drop of this ocean can inundate the whole world with transcendental bliss. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita Madhya Leela, 18th chapter, describing the Lord's visit to Sri Vrindavan and his conversion of the Muslim soldiers on the way to Prayag. We're right at the end. I could have chanted at the end anyway. We can chant it again, and if it's the same one. So this is chapter 19. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Srila Rupa Goswami. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Text number 1. Before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Lord Brahma with the details of creation and manifested the Vedic knowledge. In exactly the same way, the Lord, being anxious to revive the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan. Activities were almost lost to memory. In this way, he preached Krishna consciousness throughout this world. So here, telling how the Lord, being anxious to revive the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan. So by the Lord's mercy, the Lord reveals himself in his pastimes, form, etc. And Rupa Goswami was empowered when Rupa Goswami was in Jagannath Puri with Mahaprabhu. He wrote some poem expressing the mentality of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And he stuck it in the straw roof of that house where they were staying. Mahaprabhu came and he saw the piece of paper, or palm leaf, I guess, bark. Didn't have paper in those days. Paper was just being invented at that time. Anyway, probably a palm leaf he had written on. He stuck it in the roof. Mahaprabhu came in and he saw that palm leaf. And he read on it. And he said, "How is it? This must be Rupa Goswami, the beautiful Sanskrit. How come he's understood my mind? He's written exactly where my mentality was. Everybody else thought I was chanting, like it was a love song. Mahaprabhu was calling. We were singing poems from Chandi Das, and others who were great Vaishnava poets and used to sing about the conjugal affairs of Radha and Krishna. So when Mahaprabhu was singing to Lord Jagannath and expressing his emotions in the mood of Srimati Radharani, everybody thought it was kind of a love song he was singing. It's the same moonlit night here, you are the same person, I'm the same person. Expressing Lord Radharani's feelings. And anyway, Mahaprabhu said, how he can know that? Then everybody was coming, they said, look what Rupa Goswami's written. How could he have done that? How could he have known my mind? And the devotee said, the only reason he can know your mind is that you must have been merciful upon him. You must have bestowed him with mercy, otherwise it's not possible. That's why he has blessed you. So here's the same thing he's saying. The Lord impregnated in the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan. The activities were almost lost to memory. In this way, he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the whole world. So Mahaprabhu blessed him. Then he could reveal everything. Text number 2. All glories to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra. All glories to the devotees of the Lord. Text 3. After meeting Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in the village of Ramakeli, the brothers, Rupa and Sanatana, returned to their homes. How many of you have been? Ramakali. Place is no different than Vrindavan. Rupa Goswami was his Rupa Manjari, sir, and Sanatan. They were wandering around at that area, Ramakeli. So they created, that place is known as New Vrindavan also. They excavated some kundas there and next fall. The two brothers devised the means by which they could give up their material activities. For this purpose, they appointed two brahmanas and paid them large amount of money. The brahmanas performed religious ceremonies and chanted the holy names of Krishna so that the two brothers might attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu very soon. A Purascharana is an ritualistic ceremony performed under the guidance of an expert spiritual master or brahmana. It is performed for the fulfillment of certain desires. One rises early in the morning, chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, performs Archmaniam by the Arctic ceremony, and worships the deities. All these activities are described in the Madhya Leela, 15th chapter, verse 108. At this time, Srila Rupa Goswami returned home, taking with him large quantities of riches loaded in boats. More than one boat. Boats were full up with gold and riches. Srila Rupa Goswami divided the wealth that he brought back home. He gave 50% in charity to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and 25% for his relatives. Purport. Here, this is a practical method of how one should divide his money and retire from household life. 50% of one's money should be distributed to qualified and pure devotees of the Lord. 25% may be given to family members, and 25% may be kept for personal use in case of emergency. 50% of one's money should be distributed to the qualified pure devotees of the Lord, 25% given to family members, and 25% may be kept for personal use in case of emergency. But a lot of people say, I can't give 50% of my wages. You're working. I can't give 50% of my wages. Because this is recommended here. Of course, and in ISKCON, that was the standard, wasn't it? I think Prabhupada said you give 50% in charity. But most Grihasthas said we can't do that because the society doesn't allow it. They don't allow it. You earn too much. It's kept. You can earn bare minimum. Otherwise, they're always taxing and things like that. So, but they say we can't make it. So the idea is that Veda has to be practical. If it says something in the Veda is not practical, then what is the use of the Veda? So it has to be practical. So according to Bhaktivinoda Purna Swami Maharaj, he says that 50% of your income means you got 100 rupees and you got to give 50%. But this 50% it covers your maintenance, your daily maintenance, for the Vaishyas especially. 50% maintenance, just to maintain. And also, because the Vaishya is always investing, and that what he's investing, that's a consideration. That's out of the 50% he's got. And what else is he? Anyway, it means that 50% means you're living together, things you've got to in the future, you're planning in the future. That's all considered a part of the 50%. Otherwise, it's not practical. People can't do that. So 50% means after you've calculated everything, you're maintaining your family, you're maintaining your business, you got your future interests, you're investing in the future. After all that, in other words, it's like some pocket money. You've got something left. So that is what 50% of that you give in charity. So it's not, although you give the original 50%, but after everything has been deducted for the grihastha. And that, yeah. So that's the 50% that you should give after everything else has been deducted for your regular maintenance. Then it becomes practical. How can you give something if you haven't got it? So what is extra? Your pocket money? Then 50% of that. When Rupa Goswami heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had returned to Jagannath Puri and was preparing to go to Vrindavan through this forest, Srila Rupa Goswami sent 2 people to Jagannath Puri to find out where Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu would depart for Vrindavan. Srila Rupa Goswami told the 2 men, "You are to return quickly and let me know when he will depart. Then I shall make the proper arrangements." While Sanatana Goswami was in Gaudadesh, he was thinking, "The Nawab is very pleased with me. I certainly have no obligation." Sorry. "The Nawab is very pleased with me. I certainly have an obligation. If the Nawab somehow or another becomes angry with me, I should be greatly relieved. That is my conclusion." On the pretext of bad health, Sanatana Goswami remained at home. Thus he gave up his government and service, and he did not go to the royal court. The greedy masters of this clerical and secretarial staff performed the government duties while Sanatana Goswami personally remained at home and discussed the revealed scriptures. Purport. Sanatana Goswami was the minister in charge of the government secretariat and his assistants. The undersecretaries and the clerks all belonged to the Kayastha community. Formerly, the Kayasthas belonged to the clerical and secretarial staff of the government, and later, if one served in such a post, he would be called Kayastha. Eventually, if a person could not identify himself as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Sudra, he used to introduce himself as a Kayastha to get wealthy and honorable position. In Bengal, it is said that if one cannot give the identity of his caste, he calls himself Kayastha. On the whole, the Kayastha community is a mixture of all castes, and especially includes those engaged in clerical or secretarial work. Materially, such people are always busy occupying responsible government posts. When Sanatana Goswami was relaxing and feeling inclined to retire from government service, many Kayasthas of his secretarial staff were very eager to occupy his post. In this regard, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur states that when Sanatana Goswami was the government minister and the Kayastha who assisted him saw that he was reluctant to continue, they became very expert in duties. Sanatana Goswami was a Brahmana belonging to the Saraswat Brahmana community. It is said that when he resigned, a subordinate named Punduraka Khan, who was a Kayastha, he occupied his post. Sanatana Goswami used to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam in an assembly of 20 or 30 learned Brahmana scholars. Purport. Sanatana Goswami, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, gives us the following commentary on the words Bhagavata Vishara, as confirmed in the Mundaka Upanishadam 1145. There are two kinds of educational systems. One deals with transcendental knowledge, Paravidya, and the other with material knowledge, Aparavidya. All the Vedas, Rig Ved, Yajurved, Samaved, and Atharvaved, along with their corollaries, known as Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakrana, Vinukra, Chanda, Jyotisha, belong to the inferior system of knowledge, material knowledge, the Apara Vidya. Jyotisha Shastris. Some devotees wanted to follow that. Prabhupada said, yes, it's a science. He said it's the highest material science. That's all. But it is a science, astrology and etc. Jyotisha. Prabhupada said it's the highest science, but it's material science. So same things. They all belong to the inferior system of knowledge known as Aparavidya. By Paravidya, one can understand the Akshara, or Brahman, or the absolute truth. As far as Vedic literature is concerned, the Vedic sutras is accepted as the Paravidya. Srimad Bhagavatam is an explanation of that Paravidya. Those who aspire after liberation, mukti or moksha, and introduce themselves as Vedantika, are also equal to those groups aspiring to improve religion, dharma, economic development, artha, and sense gratification, karma. Dharma, artha, karma, moksha are called chatur varga. They are all within the system of inferior material knowledge. Any literature giving information about the spiritual world, spiritual life, spiritual identity, and spirit soul is called Paravidya. Srimad Bhagavatam does not have anything to do with the materialistic way of life. It gives transcendental information to educate people in the superior system of Paravidya. Sanatana Goswami was engaged in discussing the Bhagavad Vidya, which means he discussed transcendental superior knowledge. Those who are karmis, jnanis, yogis are not actually fit to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. Only Vaishnavas or pure devotees are fit to discuss that literature. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, 12, 13, 18. Although Srimad Bhagavatam is counted among the Puranas, it is called the spotless Purana because it does not discuss anything material. It is liked by transcendental Vaishnava devotees. The subject matter is found in the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for the Paramahamsas. It is said, Parama Nirmat Sharanam Shatam Vedyam. A Paramahamsa is one who does not live in the material world, and one, he does not envy others. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is discussed to arouse the living entity to the transcendental position of jnana, knowledge, and vairagya, renunciation. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1-12. The serious, inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by rendering devotional service in the form of which he has heard from the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Shruti. This is not a sentiment. Knowledge and renunciation can be obtained through devotional service, Bhakti-shruta Gritaya. That is, by arousing one's dormant devotional service, Krishna consciousness. When Krishna consciousness is aroused, it relieves one from fruitive activity for economic development and material enjoyment. This relief is technically called Naishkarmya. And when one is relieved, he has no longer interest in working hard for sense gratification. Srimad Bhagavatam is Srila Vyasadeva's last mature contribution, and one should read and hear it in the assembly of realized souls while engaging in devotional service. At such a time, one can be liberated from all material bondage. This was the course taken by Srila Sanatana Goswami, who retired from government service to study Srimad Bhagavatam with the learned scholars. Text 18. While Sanatana Goswami was studying Srimad Bhagavatam in the assembly of learned Brahmanas, one day the Nawab of Bengal and another person suddenly appeared. Purport. The full name of the Nawab of Bengal, Hussain Shah, was Alauddin Sayyid Hussain Shah Skripa Makkah, and he ruled Bengal for 23 years, from 1420 to 1443, Shakabda era, that is AD 1498 to 1521. Srila Sanatana Goswami was studying Bhagavatam with the scholars in the year 1424 to 1502. Nawab Hussain Shah. He was actually from Abyssinia. Abyssinia is in Africa, isn't it? Africa, Abyssinia. And because they used to capture the Abyssinians and use them as slaves. So they used to take the Abyssinians from Africa side, yeah? Abyssinia, black people. So they used to take them as slaves, but over the centuries, then gradually they increased, and then eventually they took over the position of government there. So Nawab Hussain Shah, who was actually Jarasandha in Krishna Leela, so he had the position of being the king there, Nawab Hussain Shah. As soon as all the Brahmanas and Sanatana Goswami saw the Nawab appear, they all stood up and respectfully gave him a sitting place to honor him. Although Nawab Hussain Shah was a Malecha, Yavana, he was nonetheless the emperor of the country and the learned scholar, and Sanatana Goswami offered him all respects due to the king or governor. When a person occupies an exalted executive post, one should consider that he has acquired the grace of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yat Yat Vibhutmat Shatma Srimat Ujitam Ujit. That's Radharani. Eva Yatad Eva Gacha Tvam Mama Tijo Hamsa Shambhavam. Know that all is opulent, beautiful, and glorious spring from just but a spark of my splendor. Whenever we see something exalted, we must consider it is a part of the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A powerful man, Vibhutimat Shatvam, is one who has obtained the grace of the Lord or has derived some power from him. In Bhagavad Gita 7.10, Krishna says, Tejas Tejas Vimnaham. I am the power of the powerful. The learned Brahmana scholars showed respect to Nawab Hussain Shah because he represented a fraction of Krishna's power. The Nawab said, I sent my physician to see you, and he has reported that you are not diseased. As far as he could see, you are completely healthy. I am depending on you to carry out so many activities, but you have given up your governmental duties and sit here at home. You have spoiled all of my activities. What is your intention? Please tell me frankly. Sanatana Goswami replied, you can no longer expect any service from me. Please arrange for someone else to attend to the management. Becoming angry with Sanatana Goswami, the Nawab said, your elder brother is acting just like a plunderer. By killing many living entities, your elder brother has destroyed all of Bengal. Now here you are destroying all of my plans. Srila Sanatana Goswami said, you are the supreme ruler of Bengal and are completely independent. Whenever someone commits a fault, you should punish him accordingly. Hearing this, the Nawab of Bengal stood up and returned to his home. He ordered the arrest of Sanatana Goswami so that he could not be able to leave. Purport. It is said that the relation between the Nawab of Bengal and Sanatana Goswami was very intimate. The Nawab used to consider Sanatana Goswami his younger brother. And when Sanatana Goswami showed a very strong intention to resign, the Nawab, feeling family affection, essentially said, I am your elder brother, but I do not look after the state management. My only business is attacking other states with my soldiers and fighting everywhere as a plunderer. Because I am a great meat eater, Yavana, and I'm used to hunting and killing all kinds of living beings. In this way, I am destroying all kinds of living entities in Bengal. While engaged in this destructive business, I am hoping that you will tend to the administration of the state. Since I, your elder brother, am engaging in such destructive business, you being my younger brother should look after the state management. If you do not, how will these things continue? His talks were based on family relationship. And Sanatana Goswami also replied in an intimate and joking way. Essentially, he told the Nawab, my dear brother, you are independent, you are the independent ruler of Bengal. You can act in any way which you like. And if someone commits fault, you can plunder him accordingly. In other words, Sanatana Goswami was saying that since the Nawab was accustomed to the act of acting like a plunderer, he should go ahead and take action. Since Sanatana Goswami was not showing much enthusiasm performing his duty, the Nawab should dismiss him from his service. The Nawab could understand the intention of Sanatana Goswami's statement. He therefore left in an angry mood and ordered Sanatana Goswami arrest. The prison house is still there in the Ramakeli, where Sanatana was put into prison. Purport. Now at this time, Nawab, he was going to attack the province of Orissa. And he told Sanatana Goswami, at that time the Nawab was going to attack the province of Orissa. And he told Sanatana Goswami, come with me. Purport. Hussein Shah attacked the neighboring province of Orissa in 1424, Shakapta, AD 1502. At that time he conquered the feudal princes there. Sanatana Goswami replied, you are going to Orissa to give pain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For this reason, I am powerless to go with you. The Nawab again arrested Sanatana Goswami and kept him in prison. At that time, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu departed for Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri. The two persons who went to Jagannath Puri to inquire about the Lord's departure returned and informed Rupa Goswami that he had heard the Lord had already departed for Vrindavan. Upon receiving this message, the two brothers, Rupa and Goswami, immediately wrote a letter to Sanatana Goswami saying that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has departed for Vrindavan. In this letter to Sanatana Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami wrote, we two brothers are starting out to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You must also somehow or other get released and come to see me and come to meet us. The two brothers are mentioned here are Rupa Goswami and his younger brother Anupam Malik. Rupa Goswami was informing Sanatana Goswami that he should join him and his younger brother. Rupa Goswami further informed Sanatana Goswami, I have left a deposit of 10,000 coins with a grocer. Use that money to get out of prison. Somehow or another, you must get yourself released and come to Vrindavan. After writing this, the two brothers, Rupa and Anupama, went to see Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupa Goswami's younger brother was a great devotee, whose actual name was Sri Vallabha, but he was given the name Anupama Mallika. Sri Rupa Goswami and Anupama Mallika went to Prayag, and they were very pleased to hear news that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. At Prayag, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to see the temple of Bindu Madhav, and hundreds of thousands of people followed him just to meet him. Some of the people following the Lord were crying, some were laughing, some were dancing, some were chanting. Indeed, some of them was rolling on the ground, exclaiming, Krishna, Krishna. Prayag is located at the confluence of two rivers, Ganges and Jamuna. Although these rivers are not able to flood Prayag with water, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu inundated the whole area with waves of ecstatic love for Krishna. Seeing the great crowd, the two brothers remained standing in a secluded place. They could see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ecstatic to see Lord Bindu Madhav. The Lord was loudly chanting the holy name of Hari, dancing in ecstasy, and raising his arms, he asked everyone to chant, Hari, Hari. Everyone was astounded to see the greatness of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, I cannot describe properly the pastimes of the Lord of Prayag. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu made an acquisition with a Brahmana from Deccan in South India. And that Brahmana invited him for his meals and took him to his place. While Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting in a solitary place at the home of the Deccana Brahman, Rupa Goswami and Rupa Vallabha and Vallabha Anupam Mallika, they came to meet him. Seeing the Lord from a distance, the two brothers put two clumps of straw between their teeth and immediately fell down on the ground like rods, offering obeisances. Sign of humility, you put some grass, straw, between your teeth. Both the brothers were overwhelmed with ecstatic emotion and recited various Sanskrit verses. They stood up and fell down again and again. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to see Rupa Goswami, and he told him, stand up, my dear Rupa, come here. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then said, it is not possible to describe Krishna's mercy, for he has delivered you both from the well of material enjoyment. Krishna said, even though a person is a very learned scholar of Sanskrit, Vedic literatures, he is not accepted as my devotee unless he is pure in devotional service. Even though the person is born in a family of dog eaters, he is very dear to me if he is a pure devotee and has no motivation to enjoy fruitive activities or mental speculation. Indeed, all respect should be given to him, and whatever he offers should be accepted. Such devotees are worshipable as I am. Purport. This was the verse included in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. After reciting this verse, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu praised the two brothers, and out of his causeless mercy, he placed his feet on their heads. After receiving the Lord's causeless mercy, the two brothers folded their hands in great humility, offered the following prayers to the Lord. Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Tusi Namaha. O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself, appearing as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani. You are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Merciful Lord, the Personality of Godhead, who has converted all the three worlds, which were maddened by ignorance, and saved them from their diseased condition by making them mad with the nectar from the treasure or house of love of Godhead. Let us take full shelter of that Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, whose activities are all wonderful. This verse is found in the Govinda Lila Amrita 1-2. After this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat them down by his side and asked them, what news do you have from Sanatana? Srila Rupa Goswami replied, Sanatana has now been arrested by the government of Hussain Shah. If you kindly save him, he can become liberated from that entanglement. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu immediately replied, Sanatana has already been released from his confinement, and he will very soon meet with me. The Brahmanas then requested Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to accept his lunch. Rupa Goswami also remained there that day. Balabhadra Bhattacharya invited the two brothers to take lunch also. The remnants of the food of the plate of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was offered to them. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu selected his residence beside the influence of the Ganges and the Jamuna, at the place called Triveni. The two brothers, Rupa Goswami and Sri Ballabh, selected their residences near the Lord's residence. At that time, Sri Ballabhata was staying with Adwaila Gram. And when he heard that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu would arrive there, he went to his place to see him. Purport, the Sri Ballabhatacharya was a great learned scholar of Vaishnavism, but in the beginning, he was very much a devotee to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. In the beginning, he was very much devoted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But since he thought he could not receive proper respect from him, he later joined the Vishnu Swami sect and became the Acharya of that sect. His sect is celebrated as the Balabhacharya Sampradaya. This Sampradaya has a great influence in Vrindavan near Gokula and in Bombay also. Balabhata wrote many books, including a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam called the Sobhadini Tika, and notes on the Vedanta Sutra in the form of an Anubhashya. He also wrote a combination of 16 short works called Shodasa Granta. The village where he was staying, Adailagram or Adeligram, was near the confluence of the river Ganges and Jamuna, on the other side of the Jamuna from Prayag, about 1 mile from the river. A temple of Lord Vishnu there belongs to the Balabh Sampradaya. Balabhata was originally from that place, a place in southern India called Troilanga. There is a railway station called Nittababalu. 16 miles from the station is a village called Kankadabada or Kankruna Prabhu. A learned Brahmana named Lakshmana Dakshita used to live there, and Ballabha Acharya was his son. There were 5 sections of the Brahmana community in Andhra Pradesh, known as Belanati, Beganati, Muraki Nati, Telugu Nati, and Kalasha Nati. Of these 5 Brahmanical communities, Ballabhacharya took birth in the community of Belanati in the year 1400, Sakapta era, AD 1478. According to some people, Ballabhacharya's father took sannyas before Ballabha's birth and returned home to take Ballabhacharya as his son. According to the opinion of others, Ballabhacharya was born in 1400, Sakapta area, on the Ekadasi day of the dark moon of the month of Chaitra. He took his birth in a Brahminical family, surnamed Kambambu Patibaru. According to this account, his father's name was Lakshmana Bhatta Dikshita, and he was born in Champakaranya. In someone else's opinion, Ballabhacharya appeared near the village named Champagara Grama. It is near the railway station named Rajima in Madhya Pradesh. After studying for 11 years at Banarasi, Ballabhacharya returned home. On his return, he heard that his father had departed from the material world. Keeping his brother and mother at home, he went to the river bank of the river Tungabhadra, to a village named Vidyanagar, where he enlightened Krishnadas, grandson of the king Bukharaja. After that, he traveled throughout India thrice on trips lasting 6 years each, and thus he passed 18 years and became victorious in discussions of the real scriptures. When he was 30 years old, he married Mahalakshmi, who belonged to the same Brahminical community as his. Near Govardhan Hill, he established a deity in the valley. Finally, he came to Adela, which is on the other side of the Jamuna from Prayag. Ballabhacharya and his 2 sons, Gopinath and Vitaleshwara, in the old age, he accepted the renounced order, 1452 Sakapta era, AD 1530. He passed away from the material world at Banarasi. His book, known as the Sodasa Granta, and his commentaries on Vedanta Sutra, Anubhashya, and Srimad Bhagavatam, Subodhini, are very famous. He wrote many other books besides. Ballabhacharya offered Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu his obeisances And the Lord embraced him. After this, they discussed topics about Krishna for some time. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu felt great ecstasy and ecstatic love when he began to discussing Krishna. But the Lord checked his feelings because he felt shy before Balabhata. Although the Lord remained and restrained himself externally, ecstatic love raged within him, and there was no checking that. Balabhata was astonished to detect this. Thereafter, Balabhata invited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch, and the Lord introduced his brothers Rupa and Balabha to him. From a distance, the two brothers, Rupa Goswami and Balabha, fell down to the ground and offered obeisances to Balabhata with great humility. When Balabhata walked towards them, they ran away to a more distant place. Rupa Goswami said, "I am untouchable and most sinful. Please do not touch me." Balabhacharya was very much surprised at this. Sri Mahaprabhu was very pleased, and he therefore spoke to him. He belongs to a very low caste. You are a follower of the Vedic principles, and you are well experienced performer of Vedic sacrifices. You also belong to the aristocracy. Purport. Generally, Brahmanas are puffed up with false prestige because they belong to aristocracy and perform many Vedic sacrifices. In southern India especially, this Patishiya's position is most prominent. At any rate, this was the case 500 years ago, when Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu actually started a revolution against Brahmanical system by inaugurating the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. By this chanting, one can be delivered regardless of caste, creed, color, or social position. Whoever chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is immediately purified due to the transcendental position of devotional service. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is hinting that Balabhacharya was an exalted Brahmana who makes sacrifices and follows the Vedic principles should not neglect such a person who is engaged in devotional service by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Actually, Rupa Goswami did not belong to a lower caste. He was from the high aristocratic Brahmana family, but due to his association with the Muslim Nawab, he was considered fallen and was excommunicated from the Brahmanical society. However, due to his advanced devotional service, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as a Goswami. Balabhacharya knew this, and one who is a devotee is above all other castes and creeds, and yet Balabhacharya felt himself prestigious. The present head of the Balabhacharya Sampradaya of Bombay is named Dikshita Maharaj. He is very friendly to our movement, and whenever we meet him, the learned Brahmana scholar highly praise the activities of the Hare Krishna movement. He is a light member of our society, and although he is learned scholar in the Brahmanical caste tradition, he accepts our society and considers its members bona fide devotees of Lord Vishnu. Text 70. Hearing the holy name constantly vibrated by the two brothers, Balabhacharya could understand the hints of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Balabhacharya said, "Since these two are constantly chanting the holy name of Krishna, how can they be untouchable? On the contrary, they are most exalted." Purport. Sri Balabhacharya admission that the brother's exalted position should serve as a lesson to one who is falsely proud of his position as a Brahmana. Sometimes the so-called Brahmanas do not recognize our European and American disciples as devotees or brahmanas. And some brahmanas are so proud that they do not allow them to enter into the temples. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing, gives a great lesson. Although Ballabha Bhattacharya was a great authority on Brahmanism and a learned scholar, he admitted that those who chant the Lord's holy names are bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnavas and are therefore exalted. Ballabha Bhattacharya then recited the following verse. My dear Lord, one who always keeps your holy name on his tongue becomes greater than an initiated Brahmana. Although he may be born in the family of dog-eaters and may therefore be materially, by material calculation, may be the lowest among men, still he is glorious. This is the wonderful effect of chanting the holy name of the Lord. It is therefore concluded that one who chants the holy name of the Lord should be understood to have performed all kinds of austerities. A great deal of sacrifice is mentioned in the Vedas. He has already taken his bath in all the holy rivers and places of pilgrimage. He has studied all the Vedas and is virtually an Aryan. Purport. This is the verse quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:33-7. Text 73. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to hear Ballabha Bhattacharya quoting Shastram about the position of a devotee. The Lord praised him, and personally, and feeling ecstatic love of Godhead, he began to quote many other verses from the Shastras. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said a person who has the pure characteristics of a Brahmana due to devotional service, which is like a blazing fire burning to ashes all the sinful reactions of past lives, is certainly saved from the consequences of sinful acts, such as taking birth in a lower family. Even though he may be born in a family of dog-eaters, he is recognized to be a learned scholar. But although a person may be learned in the scholar in the Vedic knowledge, he is not recognized if he is an atheist. Purport. This verse and the next are quoted from Haribhakti Shuddhadaya 3:11 and 12. The transcendental literature extracted from the Puranas. For a person devoid of devotional service, birth in a great family or nation, knowledge of the revealed scriptures, performance of austerities and penances, the chanting of the Vedic mantras are all like ornaments on the dead body. Such ornaments simply serve to concoct pleasure of general populace. When he saw the Lord's ecstatic love, Bhattacharya was certainly very much astonished. He was also astonished by the Lord's knowledge of the essence of devotional service, as well as by his personal beauty and influence. Ballabha Bhattacharya then put Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates aboard a boat and took them to his own place to offer them lunch. While crossing the river Jamuna, Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw the glossy black water and he immediately bewildered with ecstatic love. Indeed, as soon as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw the river Jamuna, he immediately made a great sound and jumped into the water. Everyone was filled with fear and trembling to see this. They all hastily grabbed Caitanya Mahaprabhu and pulled him out of the water. Once on the boat's platform, the Lord began to dance. Due to the Lord's heavy weight, the boat began to tilt and began filling up with water and was on the verge of sinking. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu tried to restrain himself as far as possible before Ballabha Bhattacharya, but although he tried to keep himself calm, his ecstatic love could not be checked. Seeing the circumstances, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally became calm, so the boat was able to reach the shore of Adailia and land there. Fearing the Lord's welfare, Ballabha Bhattacharya stayed in his association. After arranging for his bath, the Bhattacharya took the Lord to his own house. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at his home, Balabhatacharya, being greatly pleased, offered the Lord a nice sitting place and personally washed his feet. Balabhatacharya and his whole family then sprinkled that water on their heads. They then offered the Lord new underwear and outer garments. Balabhatacharya worshipped the Lord with great pomp, offering scents, incense, flowers, lamps, and with great respect he induced Balabhatacharya, the Lord's cook, to cook. Thus Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was offered lunch with great care and affection. The brothers Rupa Goswami and Sri Vallabha were also offered food. Balabhatacharya was first offered the remnants of the Lord's food. Balabhatacharya first offered the remnants of the Lord's food to Srila Rupa Goswami, then to Krishnadas. The Lord was then given spices to purify his mouth. Afterwards he was made to rest, and Balabhatacharya personally massaged his legs. While Balabhatacharya was massaging him, the Lord asked him to go and take prasadam. After taking prasadam, he returned to the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, Raghupati Upadhyaya of the Trihuta district arrived. He was a very learned scholar, great devotee, and a respected gentleman. Purport. Trihuta or Trihurti is a combination of 4 districts in Bihar: Sharan, Champaran, Mazaffarpur, and Darbhanga. The people of this state are called Triyutiya. Raghupati Upadhyaya first offered respects to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and gave him his blessing, saying, "Always stay in Krishna consciousness." Raghupati Upadhyaya was very pleased to hear the Lord's blessings. The Lord then asked him to describe Krishna. When Raghupati Upadhyaya was requested to describe Krishna, he began to recite some verses that he had personally composed about Krishna's pastimes. Hearing these verses, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Raghupati Upadhyaya recited, "Those who are afraid of material existence worship the Vedic literatures. Some worship the Smriti, the corollaries to the Vedic literatures, and others worship the Mahabharata. As far as I am concerned, I worship Krishna's father, Maharaj Nanda, in whose courtyard the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is playing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare." Also this verse, "Let others worship the Vedic literature. As far as I am concerned, I am worshipping Krishna's father, Nanda Maharaj, because he has got the Supreme Personality of Godhead playing in his backyard like a small boy. So I'm going to worship Nanda Maharaj. He has the Supreme Absolute Truth in his backyard playing that." This was the last verse quoted of Srila Prabhupada's books, of Bhagavatam. Prabhupada's purport, where he finished. He quoted this verse. So this is the last verse quoted by Srila Prabhupada in Srimad Bhagavatam. Of this one, how he is worshipping Nanda Maharaj, because he's got Krishna crawling in his backyard. It's a nice prayer. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Thank you. Any comment or question?
It seems It's like Lord Chaitanya was not so much favor to Bhagavad. He was not too much favor.
Not so much?
He favor. He is little bit try to control himself. It's from the beginning he don't show him full mercy. It seems like it's like this.
You're talking of Vallabha Bhattacharya.
Vallabhacharya, she's talking with Vallabhacharya.
He does it so much, he doesn't show his full mercy.
He said that my translation of Srimad Bhagavatam is better than Sri Daswami. No, Shukadev.
Oh,
But according to some, Vallabhacharya was an incarnation of Shukadeva Goswami. So in that case, if he makes a statement like that, that my translation is better than Shukadeva Goswami's.
Chastised him because he didn't respect the previous acharyas.
Yeah. That
Sridhara Swami. He told that his commentaries is better than Sridhara Swami's commentary on Shukadeva Goswami.
Yes, she's the hidden source of Shukadeva.
there's a nice letter when someone sent to Prabhupada from the head, I think it's the head of the Vallabha Sampradaya. And he wrote a letter to Prabhupada saying how they shouldn't criticize, your disciples shouldn't criticize the different acharyas. And I can't remember. You've got to read the letter to see how Prabhupada phrased it. In essence, he said that Prabhupada wrote a letter back and said, "Thank you for your letter." He said, "But just like you've been criticizing us out of your love for Sridhar. So similarly, see, out of love for our sampradaya, we are saying this." But the letter was written in such a way that what the the author was saying, what he was saying was exactly what he was doing. He was writing back, but he was criticizing Prabhupada. Exactly what he was saying about criticizing Sridhar, he was criticizing Prabhupada. He said, "No, you see in your letter, because of your affection for Sridhar and Vallabha Bhattacharya, because of your affection for him, and you have written defending him. So similarly, you're doing the same thing. You're criticizing me." It's a very expert letter. I don't know where you find it, but it's way proper. Yeah. Yeah, he goes on. Ultimately, these are four acharyas, they all came to Kidweep, Belpakur. That's Shimantadweep? Or Rudradweep? Maybe Rudradweep. And if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had a darshan with all these acharyas. They had him in previous times. And then Mahaprabhu said, I will come in the Kali Yuga, presenting the philosophy, the Chinta Veda Veda Tattva. And what did he say? I will come, I will take some essence of teachings, 2 points from each of the different sampradayas, and I will form. Not that actually Mahaprabhu took 4 these different essences from the other sampradayas and formed his society on it. No, because Mahaprabhu had met these people previous to the event of Navadvip Dham, when the Navadvip was invented for this particular age of Kali. So even before Navadvip had invented, they had darshan of Mahaprabhu in that place. Rudradweep, I think Rudradweep. No, but Mahaprabhu had actually given them those instructions. His instructions, he gave them those 2 points. Like Madhava, he said you could teach, it will appear you can teach deity worship and the refutal of Mayavad philosophy or something. So those 2, he had that benediction many years before Navadvip had invented himself. That Mahaprabhu gave him that benediction. You'll be able to defeat Mayavadis and the process of the deity worship being an eternal feature, the deity as being eternal. So he gave them to many years before Navadvip had invented. So then Mahaprabhu invented in Navadvip, then these 4 major points, some of the 4 major points he formulated his sampradaya. But they were originally, he is the guru of the others. He gave those points to the others even before Navadvip pastime had manifested. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Sri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving me the chance to